Okay, number 31. Which diagram shows plane PQR and plane QRS intersecting only in line QR? So let's remember that a plane is a flat surface that will contain all three of those points, and they can't be on the same line. So we can luckily look, and P, Q, and R are not located on the same line in any of our options, so that will not screw us up. So we want to see the two planes, the two flat surfaces. You see one going vertical and one going horizontal. Want to make sure that they're intersecting at QR. So where do those planes come together? Right here through the center, like at the fold of the pages. So Q and R definitely are not located there. Same thing here. They're not intersecting. Hopefully you can recognize that C is where these two planes intersect. So that is the correct answer. Number 32. Classify the figure in as many ways as possible. When I printed this out, the right angle boxes look a little bit goofy, so I don't know if that's just because it was converted to a PDF document, but sorry. So all four of those corners are right angles, and I noticed that all four sides are congruent. So I know that we're looking at this and we're saying, hey, that's a square, which is totally correct. But remember that a square is the most specific type of quadrilateral. So this is a quadrilateral, and a parallelogram, and a rectangle, rhombus, and square. So a square is technically all of those things. Number 33. Which Venn diagram is not correct? So make sure you look at all four choices because there's two on the next column. So first let's talk about what the Venn diagrams mean before we talk about which one is a false statement. The squares are completely contained in rhombuses or rhombi. So this statement really is saying that all squares are considered rhombi or rhombuses. Do we think that's a true statement? Yes, it is true. A square has all the properties of a rhombus. B, this is saying that all rectangles are squares. Again, do we think that every type of rectangle is a square? This is a false statement. Let's double check that C and D are also true, just to make sure. All kites are quadrilaterals. All kites are four-sided, so that is a true statement. Are all rhombuses parallelograms? Yes, they are. So the correct answer here is B, because it is the only false statement. All rectangles are not squares. All right, number 34. What is the slope of the line shown? So we could use the slope formula and use the coordinates if you wanted, so I will also do that. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. But we also know if we're given the graph, we can always count our slope from Algebra 1, rise over run. So this is going up, so positive 5 and a positive 11. So that's the correct answer. But if we use the formula, we should get the same thing, so I will do that also. Alrighty, so y2, we have 1 minus a negative 4, so 1 plus 4. And then we have our x values, so 7 minus a negative 4 is really 7 plus 4. So 1 plus 5. Oops. Sorry, I just realized I made an error there. So on the top, that's 1 minus a negative 4, which is 1 plus 4, or 5, so I wrote 4. So 1 plus 4 is 5, and 7 plus 4 is 11. So same idea if we do both our slope formula and counting rise over run. Last example is reviewing the Pythagorean theorem. So we know that we run into right triangles in our rectangles, rhombuses, and squares. So if I look at this situation, I have to remember, in order to use Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, we have to know what a, b, and c represent. A and B are the legs of the right triangle. It really doesn't matter which is A and which is B. The most important part is that we can identify where the hypotenuse is in the right triangle. It's always the longest side. It is always across from the right angle, or you can think about it a lot of times as the diagonal. So if I look at my example here, I have 10 as one of my legs. One of the legs is unknown, so we can call it A or B. I'll just call it B. And then finally, 13 is the hypotenuse. It's across from the right angle, and it will be our longest side. So even before I solve this problem, I know that my final solution should not be larger than 13. Okay, so I can set up my problem. A squared, so 10 squared plus B squared equals C squared, and in this case 13. So 10 squared is 100. B squared stays the same. 13 squared is 169. So now I'm going to solve for B. Subtract 100 from each side, and I get B squared is equal to 69. Now I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and I'm left with B is the square root of 69. I left it that way since that's how these responses are. But what is that as a number? The square root of 69 in your calculator says approximately 8.3. So I'm going to tell myself that that seems like a reasonable answer for this triangle. I know that 13 has to be the longest, and 8.3 seems like it would fit in this problem. So that is your final answer.